Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to Kendo Rant. We've got loads of questions to get through, 2 full pages actually. I'll jump into those in just a second, right after I've reminded you to like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. You know what to do by now, but most importantly, you know it. Go and shop at KendoStar. KendoStar is my website, of course. It's the best Kendo equipment website ever in the history of time. We know it's true, all right? I say it enough. Get over to KendoStar.com. Not only does it support this channel, it's what basically keeps us running, but like I said, it's brilliant. It's really, really good equipment. It's all stuff that I've designed or curated specially for the international Kendo community with the best rated site on the internet. So yeah, if you're shopping elsewhere, then you're really missing a trick. So get to KendoStar.com. Okay, right, first one. The first one says, a bit tangential to Kendo, but are there any resources you recommend for learning some Japanese? So it's a good question because actually I've said before how I do think it's quite a good idea, if you can of course, to pick up some Japanese throughout your study of Kendo. You will do as you study Kendo. Anyway, Kendo itself is a great way to pick up some basic Japanese. There's lots of times or chances that you get, opportunities for picking up some basic Japanese. But outside of that, I think there's loads of like textbooks and stuff like that. You could obviously do lessons and stuff. I never did any of that actually. I studied myself by textbook. I used a textbook series called Japanese for Busy People. That was pretty good actually. There was 3 books, 1, 2 and 3 that got doing all 3 of those books got me to a sort of basic level of conversation, and you know, what have you. Another thing I really found good though, because I'm not so good at studying, is I really found like listening to music. I found Japanese music that I liked in the sort of genre of music that I normally listen to. I found sort of Japanese versions, Japanese equivalents of bands I liked and stuff like that, and kind of enjoyed the music, and that helped me pick up some words, and then I'd look up the words, and that helped me remember it as well. That's another way. And then the other course was I learned a lot of kanji again from Kendo. I did a lot of that from Kendo, from looking at people's zekken, the tally name, nafuda I think is the legit word now, but the looking at those and then going away and looking them up, and that helped me actually learn quite a lot of kanji. So yeah. Next one. Hey Andy, greetings from Chile. I was wondering, any tips to start from hot in Shiai? I've noticed that during my first and second match, I really find it difficult to fight in a relaxed and flexible manner. Only for my third match on do I feel relaxed and warmed up, as I usually do in Keiko. Cheers. Okay, so yeah, this is it's a tough one. It is a tough one. And I think it's something that you'll never fully get over. I mean, that you want to make sure that you do warm up on the day before your Shiai. But the thing is you might turn up, the time for warm up might be like, let's say like 8:30 in the morning, with the opening ceremony, let's say at 9. So you've got half an hour in the morning, and then your match might not be until 11 or half 11 or something like that. So there's still a big time between. But do a warm up. Try and either with your teammates or someone else from your dojo. And when you're doing the warm up, by the way, don't overexert yourself. The best warm ups I always find is you do a bit of kirikaishi, a bit of uchikomi, a little bit of kihon geiko, some kakari geiko, and stop when you feel like you can do more. So that, like, I like to stop my warm up with the feeling that I wanted to do more, so I'm kind of hungry to do more Kendo, if that makes sense. But yeah, then just try and keep yourself moving throughout the day. Wear a jacket whilst you're waiting for your match. Keep an eye on the Shiais. Keep your mind switched on. Watch the other matches that are going on. Don't just go off and sit down and zone out, because you need to keep your head in the zone. I think is as important as anything. At the end of the day, the first match is always going to be cold, but it's the same for your opponent as well. So it's not like they've got an advantage over you in that way either. So just bear that in mind, and just try and relax, and go out and do your best. Right, next one. These ones are from the Kendo Show Early Access group. There's a link in the description down below. It's a great place to post your questions for Kendo Rant, because it's not just that you get answers on here. There's literally thousands of Kendoka in there from all over the world of all different levels. So it's a great place to join. Post your questions in there. There's a great discussion going on, but it's called the Kendo Show Early Access group because that's the first place that I post new instructional videos before they go live on YouTube. So things like the Kendo Zero to Shodan series, we put episode 3 out of that last week. It came out live on YouTube this week on Monday, but it was actually in that group on the Friday before. Okay, so the guys in the group there, they got to see that before everybody else. It's free to join. Make sure you're in it. The link's in the description. Right, kata timing. Some of the embu show nidanwaza like timing that's more realistic than the standard timing we usually do, or it's shown on the demo videos, even Japanese ones. I suspect that being more realistic timing will bring things to life more with the ya-to speed of ojuwaza in Bolga. What are your thoughts on faster kata practice, assuming both partners should do it safely? So, my thoughts on the speed for kata is it should be alive and it should be realistic, okay? So, I personally try not to do the kata where if I'm, let's say I'm the shitachi and I'm in right Jordan for ipponme, they cut, and I don't like to do it with the kind of ya-to timing, okay? For me, it's kind of ya-to, kind of pam-pam, you know, like you do have in Shinai Kendo, or you know, it is supposed to be realistic to some extent. So for me, I actually think the best kata embu, which is embu is a demonstration, is the ones where it does have that kind of energy to it, that does have that kind of, you know, the shitachi looks like they're really responding to the uchitachi's movements, you know, the ya-to kind of thing. I prefer that, and that's how I like to do it. Next one. I think you will like this question. Which is the best place in the universe to buy Kendo stuff? Well, funny you should say that. There's a brilliant store on the internet called KendoStar.com. This isn't even a plant. This is a genuine question, by the way, before someone accuses me. It's KendoStar, right? So let's get to KendoStar.com. Right, next one. I'm relatively new to Kendo, and I've been watching videos often to help increase my understanding of Kendo. Sorry if this question's already been covered, or if it's a silly question, but does police Kendo differ from regular Kendo? I only ask because the videos I watch seem to be more physical. Or is it just a rivalry between the forces? Am I just imagining this? No, you're not imagining it, okay? If you go and watch the police championships, the Japanese police championships, they're much more aggressive, much more physical than regular matches. There's lots of reasons for that. One, the rules are slightly different in the All Japan Police Championships. In the police championships, they are allowed to do some techniques that are banned in other tournaments, things like ashibarai or ashikake, which is where you sweep with the I just kicked the light where you actually sweep with the leg, or kick the legs. They're allowed to do that, and it is very aggressive because these guys that are competing at the elite police level are kind of their performance is evaluated, their work performance is evaluated based on the results of those matches, and sometimes by people like their superiors actually don't do Kendo. So it is very heated because it's kind of their livelihoods resting on it. So yeah, it is a little bit different to regular Kendo. So don't be overly influenced by it, because for the vast majority of us, we're not in that situation. Yeah. So you know, I'd you know, do watch them. Definitely, there's a lot of things to take away from it, but don't get too into the whole aggressive stuff that happens in it. Watch something much cleaner, much more closer, in my opinion, to the kind of idea of Kendo, like the All Japan Championships or the 8th Dan Championships, something like that. I think you'll learn a lot more. Next one, is wearing a black Hakamaran gi okay? Brackets or other colours? Or should I stick to blue Aizome? It's probably better to stick to blue and Aizome. You can get away wearing white, especially a white Kendo gi, especially in the summer months. It's a lot easier to wash in a lot of cases. But these days you've got blue ones like the Gaia that we have, that you can wash anyway, even though it's blue because it's not Aizome. I don't think black is a great idea, if I'm honest. You can, there's nothing to stop you. There are some tournaments in Japan, mainly for youngsters though, not for adults, for like high school kids and stuff, that do regulate the colour of the kendogi. You're not allowed to wear a colour other than white or blue. That does exist. So the Japanese Federation doesn't like the idea of different coloured kendogi and hakama. So yeah, dark blue, there's a reason we wear dark blue in Kendo. It's related to the history of Kendo and the history of Bushido. It's part of Japanese culture. So my recommendation would be to stick with that. Next one. Do smoked shinai need to be maintained differently than normal shinai? No, they don't. They can be maintained in exactly the same way. Next one. Hi, Andy. We have an 8-year-old in our dojo that's been training with us for some time. He's the only kid in the dojo, and when cutting, he makes huge overreaching cuts. I worry this will cause issues with his still developing joints and muscles, not to mention building in bad habits. Can you advise how to teach correct technique to kids without being too hard or boring so they lose interest in kendo? I go on one knee so when I'm motodachi, so I'm more like the same height. Can you advise the best way us adults can receive for him, especially for taller people, and in more active things like kirikai stance? Okay, this is a bit of a difficult one for me to answer, because I think I've got a bit of a different outlook on sort of teaching kendo to kids, seeing as I taught kendo to kids in Japan for so long, and it's like nobody cares about whether it's like too hard or boring so they lose interest in kendo, because they're supposed to learn kendo correctly. However, here's the first thing. The first thing, I wouldn't worry too much about his technique kind of affecting his muscles and joints. I don't think it's likely to happen. The kid's much younger than him, already practicing a lot more than he is over in Japan, and there's loads of kids that are doing it wrong. So I wouldn't worry about it too much in terms of that. However, in terms of how you can receive for him, I think the best way is, like you say, if you just bend down a little bit so he can reach easily, I definitely think that's going to help. You don't necessarily have to go all the way down onto one knee. If you can just, just dip down sort of this sort of way, it should be fine. That's what I normally do when I'm with little ones, and I think that shouldn't be a problem. In terms of teaching the correct technique, unfortunately, teaching the correct technique is boring and monotonous, right? That's just a fact. You can try and make kendo a bit more interesting by, doing fun games and stuff or varying stuff, but it doesn't mean that you can't get away from the fact that teaching correct technique means repetition of basics. So, it's a difficult one. Kendo's not designed to be fun for kids. That's the problem. It doesn't mean it can't be fun for kids, but it's not there to be entertainment for kids, if that makes sense. So I'm unsure really. I think the only thing you can do is just keep them doing it slowly and correctly. Make sure you're receiving from them nicely, and have them. You have to make sure that you get them to a stage where they can do fumikomi. If you can get to a stage where they can do fumikomi and cut at the same time, then you can start to do more interesting things. But what the problem is lots of people I notice that teach kids is they tend to skip that, and because the kids often can't pick up doing fumikomi within the first 2 or 3 weeks, because most of them only practice like once a week or something. If you've got them twice a week, that would be better, but you need at least 3 times a week really in order to make regular progress with kids for the most part, at least in a sort of reasonable time frame before they start getting bored about not making progress. And that's the real difficult thing. If you can get them 3 times a week, then you'll probably see that they make progress faster, and then they start to stick at it more. But that's the difficult thing that we're facing at the end of the day. So yeah, anyway, next one. May you do a more detailed comparison on the Jordan Shinai compared to the regular Shinai? What are the advantages? Okay, let me grab one. Okay, here I am. So I've got one of the Tenkafubu Jordan Shinai here, and I've got a Shinai of mine. This is a Hachiman Shinai. So you can basically see the difference. Now, in terms of the Tenkafuga Shinai, it's a beautiful Madake Shinai, actually. It's kind of a Koto style shape, with a very thick tip, because you're doing lots of katate waza, so you want it nice and durable for those solid strikes. And what you'll notice the most is the handle is quite long, okay? The Tsukagawa is quite long. Now, if I compare that to this Hachiman, you can see there's quite a big difference in the grip length there, okay? So, the reason for that is because when you're doing Jordan, now I don't play Jordan really, so when you're doing Jordan, lots of Jordan players prefer to have a longer grip because it helps them leave their hands in a more comfortable position rather than having them too close together. Lots of Jordan players like to have the longer Tsukagawa for a more comfortable kamae, and that's why we use a longer Tsukagawa on it. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Okay, next one. In modern hakama, what is the inside of the koshita made from, and what was used in the olden days? I don't know what was used in the olden days, if I'm honest, in the past, but it's basically like a plasticard type material. It's you know, for kendo hakama, it's usually like a kind of plastic type thing. Okay. Okay, next one. Hey Andy, what's the right or more efficient way to breathe during practice? Should there be any tension in your legs or arms while performing any waza? So yeah, you should first at far distance, that's when you do your first hase kakegoi, yeah, and then you need to kind of start to apply seme, and at this point you don't want to be breathing in and out like this, okay, because you won't be able to instantly perform waza if you've just breathed out, yeah? You can't be like, men, yeah? You have to have some gas in the tank, okay? So, yeah! And then you're kind of holding your breath, holding your breath, holding your breath, holding your breath, holding your breath. Men! Kote! You can attack quickly, instantly, without breathing first. And that's super important, okay? That's how you want to try and control your breath during the kegel. Now, of course, don't hold your breath so long you kind of pass out or anything like that, okay? You still have to control your breathing a little bit. But at the same time, you don't want to kind of end up in your cutting distance with nothing happening for ages, yeah? You need to try and find or make an opportunity. In terms of tension in your legs or arms, your left leg should be tense in a way. Your left calf, tense is the wrong word. It should have tame. Okay, tame means that there's preparedness to strike in your left leg, your left calf muscle, and it's put your kamae in a position to strike instantly. Okay, that should always be switched on. Okay, and the left hand as well should be always tightly gripping the shinai. Then, at the point of strike, a quick snap of both hands, both arms, bam, for the tenuchi, for a sharp, crisp strike. Bam. Okay, next question. What type of tools do you use to fix or sand shinai? And more importantly, what type of brand of oil do you use on your shinai? Thank you kindly. So, the tools that I use one of those shinai shavers, shinai kezuri. It's called Takumi. It's in like a little wooden case. We've got them on the KendoStar website. There's another one, there's a metal one as well, like it's just a whole metal. It looks a bit like a bottle opener. There's that one as well. I don't actually use that one myself, but I have seen people use that one. That's quite good actually, because it the handle part of it, I think that's made into a file, and it also comes to a point, which is quite useful for undoing the tsuru and the nakayui. I use an awl, which is just like a metal spike that I use. I've had it for ages to do things like undoing the tsuru and undoing the nakayui. And if I need to, I use a little bit of sandpaper at times as well. And in terms of the oil, I use kurumi oil. It's the oil that we've got on the KendoStar website. It's basically like walnut oil, and it's pretty good. Yeah. Next one. Hi, I was wondering if there's any meaning behind some of the names you give to the sets that you offer at KendoStar. For example, the meaning of Shinobu and Kaiser. It's not easy to understand without knowing the kanji. Yeah, so actually, I don't often use Japanese names for Borga names because I felt like when I first started KendoStar, that it was a little bit difficult. It wasn't when I first started, actually, because when I first started, we did have quite a lot of Japanese names on it, but I moved away from that, especially with the Vanguard. When I brought the Vanguard out because I wanted it to be, I wanted to give it a name that was easy to remember for people all around the world, that really represented the concept of the bogo itself. Now, the ones that do have Japanese names, yeah, you mentioned Shinobu. Shinobu means to endure. So, like, I chose that name for it because I feel like Kendo is Shinobu is very suited because of the way it's stitched. It's protective, but it's particularly very durable. Both the Shinobu and the Shinobu Wraith. It's very, very durable. So it's very suited to very hard enduring practice if you're going to use it for a lot, like very regularly for a lot of hard, intense practices. It's very suitable for that, which is why I chose the name Shinobu, which means to endure. Kaiser is like our one of our premium grade bogo sets, and I brought that name back because Kaiser was the first bogo we ever offered on KendoStar when we first launched KendoStar. We launched a book with a bogo called Kaiser, which was a really premium bogo, but we actually upgraded the materials a lot. We upgraded the stitching a lot when we brought it back a couple of years ago now. Kaiser means it's got a couple of sort of meanings in a way. The Kai from Kaiser is sakigake. It means to charge ahead, to be the front of the pack, the leader of the pack. And Sei is Hoshi. It means star. And it like I say, harks back to when we first started KendoStar. I think we had 2 or 3 sets originally, and they were all something star, because we were KendoStar. And Kaiser, that was the top one, and that's the one that we kind of brought back. And yeah, at the same time, the word Kaiser, it's the name with this kanji. So it's used to describe the first star of the Big Dipper constellation. Like it's kind of leading the charge, as it were. So that's the reason behind that. I thought it was kind of cool. And kanzetsu as well. We have a bogo called kanzetsu, which is a hand stitched bogo. It's our top level hand stitched bogo. It's a beautiful bogo actually, and it really lives up to his name, kanzetsu, which means unsurpassed, unrivaled, the best of the best. That's basically what it means, and it represents it really, really well. So, next one. I recently picked up a book called Kendo, The Definitive Guide by Hiroshi Ozawa, published by Kodansha. I came across a passage that really caught my attention, which states the following. In the dojo, dispense with any easy sense of camaraderie. As long as you are wearing the men, the opponent must be perceived as the enemy, and keiko carried out as a one-on-one confrontation. What is your take on this statement? I've heard other people say that in keiko, the enemy is our own weaknesses, and that our partner is in fact helping us, not fighting with us. Do these ideas contradict each other? Also, whilst on the subject of books, what do you think of Musashi Miyamoto's book of 5 Rings? Do you think reading it is useful for the development of one's kendo? Thanks in advance for the answers. So, quite a lot there. Look, the passage from Ozawa Sensei's book, dispense with any easy sense of camaraderie. As long as you're wearing the men, the opponent must be perceived as the enemy. Keiko carried out as a one-on-one confrontation. I completely agree with that statement. And it is not in any way in conflict with the idea that the true opponent is oneself, and we are challenging our own weaknesses through practice of kendo to become better people. Those two things do not actually have to be mutually exclusive. Now, it says that it says that as long as you're wearing the men, the opponent must be perceived as the enemy. That doesn't mean that. It says they must be perceived as the enemy whilst you're wearing the men and engaging in keiko, all right? What that means is you're not supposed to mess around and play and do jigeko for fun, yeah? Jigeko is not a game of fun, kind of tag with a shinai. Yeah, what it means is you're supposed to approach your partner, your aite, with complete seriousness and concentration and commitment to your waza, in order to not only properly strive to overcome your own weaknesses, because if you're not seriously practicing against your opponent, seriously challenging your opponent, then you're not being true to your own weaknesses. Also, you are an agent of your opponent's journey, in your opponent's own journey, as well, right? In that they are trying to do the same, and if you're not taking the practice seriously, then you are not providing the environment or the situation for them to do that either. So yeah, it's not right to do that. You shouldn't just be kind of laughing and joking, having a bit of fun in Jigeko. That's not that's what this passage means. If you're in order to do it properly. In terms of the other books, like the Book of Five Rings, I have read the Book of Five Rings. I read it when I was like IQ, and it didn't make any sense to me. I thought it did at the time, and I've been thinking about kind of going back to it and looking at it again now. It's a lot like the Kendo Kata. I think it is something that probably holds a lot of meaning and a lot of relevance to modern Kendo, but not at like this sort of early levels. So I'd say that if you're like below third dan, probably it's not as relevant as you think it is. Okay, next one. What do dojo leaders that you've met use to promote Kendo on their dojo in their region? What media and messages do they use to reach the community, and which methods are more effective than others? So in my experience, the best thing is a Facebook page. Make sure that all the information on the Facebook page is filled out best and properly. The location and all that sort of stuff. You need to have a credible website as well, a good website with information about the instructors, about the environment, stuff like that. It needs to be registered. The club needs to be registered with the federation. That helps a lot as well. And I use, like my own personal experience, I use Facebook ads for quite a good effect, actually. I know it's I know it costs money, but it doesn't have to cost loads. You can set quite a modest budget on it and still get quite good results. But the great thing is you get to target people in a specific area, which is around the dojo, obviously, with specific interests. So it can be really, really powerful. Next one. How would you approach learning Jodan as third dan in dojo with no Jodan? George McCall has posted a curriculum he uses for his high school students. I would like to hear your strategy. I would take George's curriculum, I'd read it and memorize it. I'd watch every single video I could find of good Jodan players. People obviously like Chiba Sensei. Chiba Sensei has some fantastic videos instructing Jodan, and it's going to be a journey of self-learning. However, Kendo after third dan is largely a journey of self-learning anyway. Having said that, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and then you're going to have to do a lot of katate suburi, okay? Because you're going to have to be able to swing the shinai quickly with one hand, which is tough. It's a tall order. So yeah, invest in a suburi to, do lots of suburi, make it so that you can make quick katate waza, and you're gonna have to persevere. Next one. I wish to know what the advantages and disadvantages for deer hair versus cotton when it comes to the stuffing used for the kote gashira. Also, what is the stuffing used for the vanguard kote? Okay, let me grab some. Oof, okay, here we are. So, you asked about the stuffing of the kote gashira. The kote gashira is the fist portion, okay? This part, yeah? This part, okay? There's two main materials that are used these days. One is genuine deer skin, or deer hair, and the other is called wata in Japanese. It's like a kind of wool, like a cotton wool type thing. It's usually synthetic though these days. Now, in the past, deer skin has usually been the superior. It's certainly been I keep saying deer skin. Deer hair has been the superior. It's certainly been the most expensive, deer hairs are actually hollow, and as you use the use the kote and it gets hit, they break down into a kind of like a fine, almost, I wouldn't say like sand, but into very small tiny pieces, and it makes the kote very flexible, and it helps them fit to the shape of your hand. And in the past, the cotton that was used that stuffed the fist portion was very stiff. It didn't have those qualities, and everyone preferred using deer hair. Now, deer hair still has those fantastic qualities. However, recent advances in technology, particularly of the sort of cotton, it's not cotton, synthetic these days, wata, the stuff that goes inside here, the wool that goes inside here, have meant that they're actually very, very good now. They're very similar, in fact, in the way that they behave. They're very, very soft. These are the Vanguard Kote that you asked about. These have new synthetic wool inside. It's not genuine deer hair. It's synthetic wool, but even there, right out of the bag, these are brand new. I've got them straight off the shelf just now. Okay, these are unbelievably flexible right away. Okay, now with use, these will get even more flexible and comfortable, just like a pair of genuine deer hair filled ones would be. Now, why do we use that and not the deer hair? Because you hear me talking all about quality over cost all the time, and that is true. It really is true. We really care about quality more than anything. However, the great thing about this synthetic wool is it can be treated to be antibacterial, so it helps with like bacteria and stuff, because obviously you're going to fill these with sweat as you use them. Deer hair doesn't have any of that sort of property. And also, now deer hair is very expensive, okay? So we reserve it to our more expensive models. There are cheaper deer hair options, so we could use cheaper deer hair to fill this, like lots of other companies do. So if you see other companies that have got cheap deer hair filled kote, I just say keep an eye out for that, okay? I've seen in the past it's not great. It's not washed to the same amount. There's stuff like I've seen it where there's been the cheaper deer hair that's had like moths' eggs in it, and then the moths hatch and they all come flying out of the kote. They eat through the kote and stuff like that. I'm not even joking, right? That sounds gross. It is gross. So I'd be very careful about stuff that looks cheap, even though it's got the deer hair filling. Obviously, I don't find any of that sort of stuff acceptable. So we only use the best quality deer hair when we do use it, which means it's reserved for our top tier grade bulk sets, and especially as this antibiotic synthetic stuff in here is so good. Okay, so I hope that sort of answers the question, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, this is the last one. It says, on what spots on my hand should I see calluses to see if I'm really holding the shinai correctly? Okay, so on your left hand here, you might be able to see it or not, but here is a good place to get calluses here where the skin starts to harden. Okay, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it on there, but mine are quite obvious, okay? Especially on the bottom too. Okay, a little bit here as well. I also developed them a little bit here. I've got little tiny ones here and here, because this is where squeeze the shinai for tenuchi, and a little bit on the right hand as well, because when you are squeezing the shinai for tenuchi, you do use both hands, okay? So you do develop them on both hands, but they should be much more prominent on the left side here at the base of the little finger and the ring finger, okay? So they're the best places to have them. I do have them, like I say, around this area as well, because this is where you squeeze the shinai when you're doing tenuchi, okay? So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Don't forget don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, go and do your shopping at KendoStar.com. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.